Thanks for tuning in to Seven Figure Fitness Business. Today, we're going to be talking about a very important topic, which is no-shows. Now, specifically, we're going to be talking about basically how Andrew solved the no-show problem in our own business and saved us more than $1 million per year. So Andrew, I'm really interested in you sort of running through this with us now. Where were we in terms of no-shows before you solved this? And what sort of an impact was that actually having on our business?
Well, we were ticking along. And as the big business began to grow, we started realizing that more and more people weren't showing up to the calls. So we're seeing somewhere about 45 to 50% of people not showing. Now, the thing about that is if you have 50% of people not show, and you're making all your revenue off that other 50%, there's a huge win to be had there by fixing that. Like if you get people not showing your calls, you double your revenue. So if we're making 10 grand, we're suddenly making 20. That's unrealistic. But if we drop our no-shows from 50% down to 25%, which with the stuff we're going to run through today is quite easy, then all of a sudden, instead of making that $10,000 every week, we're going to be making $15,000. And this is what we did. That's what the point of this episode is, to share that with you.
Yeah, I mean, what I always find really curious about this issue is that as your business becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, these problems that you can have, they almost become amplified. And you've often used that analogy of basically sprinkling leads in at the top of the funnel. And then obviously there's bottlenecks along the way that are basically clogging up your flow and basically preventing the number of people that can become paying clients. And ultimately with no-shows, it's no different. The bigger your business gets, the bigger your team gets, the more of an impact that this can potentially have as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We didn't have a problem with no-shows at all when we first started. We'd get everyone to show up because we delivered more value. We'd run a 7-day challenge and everyone would know, trust us, they'd love us. In fact, they absolutely love us. But as the business began to grow bigger, we couldn't give that same level of attention to each person before they actually jumped on a call with us. And as we scaled and we tried to automate things, we sent people to a landing page. There was less personal touch. Of course, that was the problem that went up. So what we're really trying to do here is this is about increasing the value, getting people to know, like, and trust us before they hop on this call, as if it was us talking to them one before that happened.
Yes, every business is always dealing with that balance between not only having enough leads, but having good quality leads. And those leads, of course, have to show up. And I manage the sales department in our team. And I can say this is that as we've improved our show up rates for calls and the quality of those leads, which we'll kind of be discussing on the episode today, it's also allowed us to be able to attract a higher quality and keep a high quality of salesperson as well. So there are so many impacts with this. It isn't just directly the money that goes in your account week to week. It helps you keep a happy team and a happy culture, specifically in terms of sales.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what every salesperson loves and likes, right? Salespeople are in an industry where they're completely overpromised and underdelivered to time and time again. They're told, yeah, you can make $1 million doing this. But one of the reasons that we do attract such high quality salespeople is the marketing is on point. It's okay, they're going to consistently get calls that take half an hour. And with those half an hour calls, they're able to earn somewhere between sort of 10 to 15% on what they're earning. And they're consistently there. If someone wants to have 10 calls in a day, they'll have 10 calls in a day.
Yeah, you certainly make my job easier as a manager because of that quality of lead, the quality and the volume of leads coming through, we do certainly attract and keep a higher quality of people working for us, which is great. But I want to sort of draw attention back because you've mentioned a couple of different numbers where we were, but what is actually the industry standard for no-shows? Because I hear some pretty terrible things just from speaking to people about their businesses.
Yeah, the numbers are, to truly break that down, I've probably got to go into the different markets. Yeah. And it's worth also discussing the differences and perhaps theorizing as why that's the case. You see, in Australia, you're probably seeing at about 40% of people, 40 to 50% of people no-show without too much structure. Having coached a lot of people and seeing this frequently, and one of the things we do with all our clients is we track all their numbers. So Australians are probably 40 to 50%. But They respond very well to direct marketing. With Australia, we often run like a direct sale. It's like join our 22-week program. They go to a landing page, and then based off seeing the landing page, we then sell them, right? They don't need as much trust. Then you've got the UK, and I don't know what happens in the UK, but for some reason, 75% of people don't show up for their calls. That might be the weather, who knows? But
it goes without saying, this year's been an incredibly tough year. So add to what's going on in their economy. And I think it's just a really tough time, but it does make it hard for the business owner if they don't solve the problem as well.
yeah, and I think a big part of it is like just naturally embedded with their culture is they're not as trusting as other places in the world. They always have the most questions. I think that, I'm sure you can remember like the 7-day challenge groups, right? Where they used to ask a lot of questions about the program before they started.
Well, I mean, absolutely. But even more relevant at the moment is we run a business in Australia and one in the UK for fitness, and working with the different sales teams in the different countries, it is very clear that there's a lot more skepticism with the UK market. So it's very, very important to establish a lot of trust before the call even takes place with them.
That's right. And that's what, like, we've tried running the 22-week direct sale in the UK and it just bombed.
Yeah.
75% took 80% in the UK of people didn't show up to that because they felt like, hey, are we going to be hard sold to? There's no trust, etc. But as soon as we ran a 7-day challenge, we flipped it. And running the 7-day challenge, we've now gotten that number down to 30% in the UK of people no showing. So it's just like they got a taster, they saw what we could do, they got to see us on video, etc., then they show up. So while Australia is more direct, the UK is trust, and then you've got the US, which is a little bit more in the middle. They sit at generally 60% of people no show. But again, like all of these things, and no matter what continent you're on, where you're working from, can be improved with these systems because they're all the same for no matter where they are.
I might be throwing you in the deep end with this question. I really don't know the answer, but is there in the States, does there seem to be any sort of differentiation in show up rates from state to state, region to region, or is it all fairly stable?
We probably haven't done enough research to find that out. One cool thing I know, what you sent me the other day was fascinating. And it was the disposable income chart. Is that what it was?
Yeah, exactly. It was the disposable income of the different countries around the world, kind of giving an idea of basically, I suppose, how wealthy they were with their income week to week.
Yeah. Well, that's a great tool that you can potentially use to actually find out like where people have more money, where they have more disposable income, and where they can send. It was really interesting. There's a huge difference in the States based on how much wealth they had, and it was very, very different. Like if you compared the Deep South compared to Connecticut, which has the most disposable income, and just like that, like there is no correlation really between the wealth and the show up rate. If anything, people who have more money are just as likely to not show up as people who don't have money, and perhaps the people who don't have money actually show up more frequently. That would be that, if any.
It does seem to be that, from what you're saying, it's actually more of a cultural thing, perhaps like geographically, perhaps more so than it is a financial thing. And I suppose it kind of begs the question, like, why is it that you think, as a general rule, why people don't show up to their calls?
It's very easy. And it's that people don't value what you're offering and your brand sucks.
So this is something I want you to delve into a little bit. Like, when you say that their brand sucks, what exactly does that mean?
Well, what it means is that people don't want what you have. They've taken one look at you and they've just gone, okay, well, that's not what I want, right? It's like if we put like hypothyroid ads in front of men who don't have thyroid problems, like they just don't want it, right? So you've got to make sure that the market actually wants what you offer. And you also, it's what we call the love at first sight principle. We want people to fall in love with you from the moment that they see you. And when you've got that, your brand is like poof at that level.
There also seems to be, from what I've observed from you, it's definitely a congruency thing as well. So if you're using certain language or certain images, or you're identifying certain pains or pleasures that really don't resonate with a particular market, it could be that there's just that feeling where you don't seem to genuinely believe the words that are coming out of your mouth. I found that does create a big sense of distrust as well. So it's incredibly important to be congruent with the message that you're putting out to the people that you're sending it to.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of copycats. Like even in our program, we give people templates, and a lot of them haven't been bothered to actually change the copy that we use. And that copy is written specifically for women who have thyroid problems. So if you use that and try and market the thyroid problems to, say, bikini bodies, they don't have those problems. They're not going to respond to that.
Yeah.
So really developing and building a real understanding of your niche, speaking their language, so that when they actually read that copy, they go, oh, that's me. The same way, like this is why hyperthyroid body transformation is so successful. When they first arrive and they see us, the first thing they see when they see an ad is our business name. And you just can't stuff it up. It's like hyperthyroid body transformation. Oh, weight loss for women who have thyroid problems.
Yeah, I remember when it was time to come up with the name. And of course, it's such a standard thing to come up with this really cool, edgy sounding name. And you were just like, nah, dude, we're going to do hyperthyroid body transformation, because every single person would know exactly what that means. Like the name doesn't have to be sexy, does it?
No, not at all. And I highly recommend against it. People will overthink these things. And every business that we've been involved in, we're pretty much using that same sort of template. Whether it's menopause body transformation, we called it mastering menopause at one stage. And you want people to just like jump out and read that, because what's going to happen is they're going to click on your business name and they're going to do some research and they're going to find out all about you. Now, it's like almost having an extra like layer of copy on top of what you're doing. The next thing is that you want people like to go there, and when they click on all of that, they just go, yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. And they're just going, whoa, I've never seen anything like this before. And that's the feedback that we got so early on when we first started the program, 3.5 years ago.
Definitely. Like if we're talking about looking back and really sort of working our way through how important it is to establish that relationship with your prospective customers, we've kind of touched on this before, but it always illustrates the point perfectly. When we started, you were the storyteller because you were the guy that had hypothyroidism, and you had all these wacky videos of you doing these bizarre things. But most importantly, you were able to really eloquently basically sort of put people in the same situation where you understood very clearly the struggles that they were dealing with, and you'd come out the other side of it. And I think the difference between that and myself, and we always like have a chuckle about this, but I was the guy that was actually helping them with the nutrition and the weight loss videos to lose weight. So technically you were pulling them in and connecting them, and I was the one that was giving them the advice. And for years I was like, screw you, Andrew G, because I get on the phone and they're like, oh, you're the other Andrew. And I'm like, for God's sake, like, they didn't want to speak to me. They all wanted to speak to the man. They wanted to speak to the guy that had the story.
Isn't it funny? You were actually the guy that was getting them results, helping them lose weight. And I was just reading my story.
I was speaking to someone, just recently about their business, and basically they were telling me about their niche. And I use that point to illustrate, because you really need to make sure that the people who you're dealing with are in some way going to be connected with you. It's not to say that you have to have that problem, but you have to somehow be able to emotionally connect to the problem that they experience. Otherwise, there is going to be an issue in terms of that relationship, and they're going to be less inclined to show up.
Exactly. And this is where things started to change for us, because we had this 7-day challenge, right, that was really powerful, where people got to meet me. But over time, the industry changed and the industry evolves. There became huge competition with 7-day challenges. All of a sudden, everyone was running them. So what happens? There was less compliance. People stopped doing the challenges. So what did we do? We go, okay, well, can we skip that 7-day challenge? And the answer to that at that time, before we set up some other stuff, was a big no. You can't skip the 7-day challenge, because my story wasn't there anymore. We didn't get people results in advance because you weren't there helping them lose weight.
We actually had to completely redefine our entire system when you really think about it, because as happens in a business when it grows, is that the first person to step out was you, so that you could really focus in your area of genius, being the lead gen. And so at a certain stage, then I stepped out of the coaching as well. And because we were the ones who created it, what that meant was that we essentially had to find a way to continue to have an amazing relationship and even better show up rates, despite the fact that you and I didn't really have our fingers on the day-to-day coaching aspects of the program anymore.
Yeah. And a big part of this is taking shortcuts to build that love at first sight. because a lot of the time we've got a lot of people do organic marketing where the sales cycle happens over the course of 6 months. With a 7-day challenge, you can speed that up and make it happen over the course of a week. But how do you make that relationship so strong that you can make this love you at first sight and buy within like 24 hours? That's the thing.
Yes. So essentially, this is exactly what spoils our sales team. And that begs the question again, how do you create that feeling for the prospect that you're basically the perfect people or the perfect business to actually help them? Like, what does that process look like to do that?
Well, we talked a little bit about it before. Like, the first thing is having the business name. It's reading the copy and going, yes, yes, yes. It's seeing the story. So we started to incorporate all of these things. So they see the ad, they go to the landing page. And then the big thing that we introduced that we didn't have before was the one-to-one conversation. We have 26 VAs working for us, and the vast majority of them are messaging people every single day, building a relationship. So what's actually happening is the customer is then getting asked really deep questions about their goals. So when we ask them, what are your goals? Why do you want to achieve them? What are you struggling with? What have you done in the past? These are all like, that's the pre-sales call. The sales call is actually starting at that point of the conversation. So we are getting our prospects really, really well warmed up. Now, these are all called what I like to call conversion tools. And the conversion tool is the 7-day challenge. The conversion tool is the landing page with all the information, the copy, the really powerful copy. It is one-to-one conversations. You can do things like survey funnels, all that sort of stuff. And what this does is it just super, super fast tracks that entire process. I believe we've talked about this before, but there's a marketing rule that someone pulled out of their ass, which is people need to see you 16 times before they buy. So we just forcibly make people see it 16 times before they buy.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to this as well. I mean, you haven't even mentioned vetting as well. I mean, technically what you've said, it all kind of to an extent constitutes what makes up vetting, which is making sure that leads that get booked in with the sales team have actually been vetted to determine with whether A, where even what they're looking for, and B, whether we are sort of in a position that they're actually interested in getting started or able to get started financially. So what does that vetting process look like?
Yeah, well, the vetting process is part of the 8 steps that we use to ensure that customers show up. Now, there's very much the bigger picture stuff, getting them to value, to like you, to know you and trust you. But from a technical aspect, these are things that you step by step that you can implement. You don't have to do them all at once, but if it's one at a time, to make sure that people are actually showing up. So we vet quite hard. What we do is we ask in our forms, hey, how much money can you afford to spend per week? We ask people, what's your occupation? We ask them what their goals are. And if we don't get a satisfactory response, we don't bother hopping on that call. So therefore, we're disqualifying people before they have the ability to no-show. Now, you have 4 real quadrants with vetting. You have people who have no money and no goal. So those are the people who are just lost little puppies. They've somehow clicked on your ad, they've made a booking, and you're just going, why have you done that? And there are people out there who do that.
They think that booking the call gets them to lose the weight.
Exactly. Well, they wouldn't have a weight loss goal at all. They're just sitting there just going, oh, I don't need to do anything. I don't have a thyroid problem. They don't have money. Yeah. Now, then you have a series of people who they do have money, but they've got no goal. So they're, for example, someone who might just want to be fit. You hear that a lot in the gym environment, don't you? It's just like, I just want to be fit. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy my training. It's a small goal. It's not much. Then you have people who have loads of money and they have a strong goal, and they're the people who buy every single time. They're the ones who we really want in the business. But then where you really have to think about who we vet are the people who have a strong goal, but they don't have money. It's not bipolar, it's not black or white. It's just like somewhere along that line that tells us how much money they have. And as you know, as a salesperson, that's where salespeople make their money, right? Being able to sell to people who don't necessarily have that much money, but they still have a strong goal.
Well, that's the difference between a C and B player versus an A+ player, is that essentially B and C players, they just basically give up on hard leads and say, it wasn't my fault. That was the marketing department. Give me better leads. And that, I don't know one good salesperson that is able to survive if they aren't the type of person to go after tough calls. You can't be a 75, 80, 90% closer if you're only dealing with leads that are absolutely perfect and loaded with cash. Not everyone's an investment banker.
Yeah. Like, we know that those leads can be closed, that internal story that people talk to themselves that they can't be closed, because we have closers in our team who are doing 95% plus. And I would not believe that unless it was in my own business and I could see it every day. And you're probably still not going to believe me, but it's true, right?
Well, I mean, I feel definitely that it's easier to close people with a very small amount of money and a large goal, as opposed to the opposite of that. People that have a lot of money and a very small goal, because we obviously know that people do show up to calls and they buy and they want to make a change based on something emotional. So you need to make sure that people are in a position where they kind of do have that balance. Now, we ask emotional questions like, what are your goals? What are your reasons for wanting to achieve those goals? What are the challenges that you've been having? They're emotional questions. And then we have some of the more, I suppose, logical based questions that give us a bit of a snapshot. So things like, what's your occupation? Now, we've sold lots of people that are unemployed or on a benefit.
It's fine.
You know, it's about collecting information. If somebody says, I can't afford anything on the form, you guys don't just discard them straight away, do you? That goes back to the VA team, and then they ask follow-up questions to determine the strength, right?
That's exactly right. Just because someone's unemployed doesn't mean they don't have money.
Right.
Just that they're unemployed at the moment. They could have been a doctor or a lawyer. They're just not working right now.
Inheritance. There's all sorts of things that are possibilities. And we make assumptions a lot of the time, which end up costing us just as much as it costs the person that we should have tried to help.
Yeah. And like, it doesn't matter. If someone says they have 40 kilos to lose, you get on that call, because there's no, like, they're going to die, like an early death, without actually talking to you. So you're doing a complete disservice by ignoring that person. You're deciding that you're not going to help them change their life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an important frame. I mean, you need to get on those calls knowing that you are there to help them. And if you can really frame it in that way, if someone doesn't have a lot of money, but this is literally going to impact their life in such a positive way, or perhaps save them from potentially even dying or being really sick, yeah, you want to get on that call and do your job. Now, you mentioned earlier 8 steps. I think we went through vetting. What else is there on the list?
So we've got what we call the 3 questions of guilt. And the 3 questions of guilt are what they say they are. We intend to make people guilty if they don't show up for the call. So the last 3 questions just before they book their call are effectively, if you no-show or cancel within 2 hours before the call, we will not rebook you. You are talking to a real person whose name is Andrew, Zach, Allison, Amy. And so they know that they're actually talking to someone, that they're actually going to be standing someone up. And we make it very, very clear to them, like, that we're giving time up outside our usual working hours to be there to have a chat to you about something that's going to be potentially life-changing. And it makes people think twice, because what happens is some people will feel guilty, fantastic, and they don't book a call because they know they're not going to show up anyways, right? So you've actually got a huge win there. The other people are going to think about it and go, you know what? That's fair enough. I'm talking to someone, and then they actually show up for the call.
Yeah, I think it's a really powerful thing. I know one of the things you mentioned in the questions or the statements of guilt is there's the part where it says that we are normal people and we have families, right? So, you know, we've taken time away from our family to basically do our
That's
job.
it.
And I think it's really important, because there are some people who in the spur of the moment, they'll just click a button, time comes, they're like, nah, whatever. It's very annoying because they are effectively wasting their time and ours. And we just want to prevent people from doing that. So if there's any manipulation here, luckily it's only done from a perspective of wanting to actually help them. If we get them on the call, we can actually help them change their lives. If they don't want it, don't book the call.
I've got a really, really cool story that illustrates that point, actually. So when I worked back at a big box gym, it was a Fitness First over in Sydney in DY. I used to run my Facebook ads, and I used to bring a lot of cold traffic into the gym. And I remember being on the phone to this lady, and I'm sitting there. It's my last session of the night, and I'm like, oh, is she actually coming up? I'm calling her. And eventually she answers, and she's just like, I'm just trying to find a park. And I look downstairs out the window, and like, there's parks everywhere. I'm just going, what? Anyways, there's another 10 minutes passes by, and I'm like, is this legit? Like, has she actually just said she's driving around the car park? And not only has she stood me up once, but decided to stand me up again. Anyways, She appears kind of sheepishly at the top of the staircase and she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I drove around the car park about 20 times thinking about whether I was going to come up." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, what happened?" And she was like, "Well, there are a number of things. It's like, I wasn't sure. I didn't know if I really wanted to have this conversation today. I didn't know if I was ready. I was just in my head." I'm sure she didn't mention it, but I'm sure there's a financial aspect, being hard sold to, being pushed, but all of these things. And I think the lesson of this story is that one person told me that story. And if there's one person who does it, there's another 19 who are doing it that you just never, ever hear about. Yeah. So now let's compile that with, that's what happened in a physical location where there was the awkwardness of calling me in real life, knowing that she was actually downstairs, compared to a phone call where you just go, you know what? I can't be bothered.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do think that there are two very different types of people that no show to calls. And one of them we very much work to fix. And I think we have a huge impact on that. The first one, which is the one that you can absolutely work to fix, are people that are just afraid of something, maybe afraid of you making them buy something that they don't want and being awkward, that maybe this is going to be a confronting conversation and they're going to feel awkward or stupid. Of course, the other type of people are people who either just don't give a crap, they're rude, or they're just kind of, I suppose, they lack integrity. Those are the ones that you don't want booking calls. But most of the time, luckily, I think generally people are good. And as long as you can give them real connection before the call and value, you kind of get people to stop being so afraid, and it makes them feel far better about turning up to the call. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we just covered the people who are scared, but I also want to talk about the people who don't value what you have to offer. At the end of the day, like, I think that inherently we've all done it before, whether we stood someone up accidentally or we were tired, had a long day at work and you decide not to go. You cancel the call at the last second, and that's another element. But like at the end of the day, like what's happening here is you've come in here, you booked someone, and your frame is down here, and the other person's frame is up here at that stage because they're just going, "Who's this junkie wanting to have a chat to me?" Right? Like they're just like, they just don't care. They don't value it. And if they don't know enough about you, that's it. Now, I have another point, a story that will really illustrate this. So let's just say you've got Hugh Jackman, and Hugh Jackman is a celebrity. He's star of Wolverine, and he's got his Wolverine Getting Shredded program. And he's the person who's going to pick up the phone and he's going to call you and he's going to sell you into his program. Now, he is such a celebrity. He's an authority because he's in great shape and people love him. So like the opportunity to get to speak to him, it's like, "Oh my gosh, is that you? Really?" Mm. And that's the level that you want to push to. Now, you're probably never ever going to get to his level. It's unlikely, but you can start pushing far up that direction. And I guarantee he'd have 99% of people show up to his calls. Whereas, hey, when you're not trying with your brand and you're all the way back down the other end, like people just don't care. So make people care. Do something to make people care. Have a strong brand. Tell your story. It's the story that sells.
That makes a lot of sense. Like 100%. I like the way that you put that, and the analogy does kind of make it really clear. How as well, like this interacts, I assume, for us, I know that you don't let people book too far in advance because that has a huge impact on people remembering the call, showing up to the call. What are the rules that you implement with us to actually guarantee people, to make people as likely to show up as possible?
Yeah. So what we used to do, right, was we used to let people book like a week in advance. We'd even sometimes book people 2 weeks in advance. And every day that you book someone in, it halves the chance that they're going to show up. So if you book someone a week away, like there's distractions in life, right? They're going to see another 10 programs of which they might have fall in love with somebody else because you weren't as good as them. It's going to happen. Someone with a thyroid problem who is looking at doing your call in general population suddenly sees us pop up and they've got a thyroid problem. Who do you think they're going to work with? They're not going to work with you. They're going to come to us.
You never want to start a sales call. I've been on them back in the past where it's like, "It's Andrew here from Hyperthyroid Body Transformation." You're like this, like rustling. "Who?" "Andrew from Hyperthyroid Body Transformation." Oh, that's the worst way to start a phone call ever. You want people to be like, you can just say, "Hi, Susie, it's Andrew here." And they're just like, "Hi." And you can tell that they're really excited, that they've been looking forward to the call. If they've forgotten about the call, you're in big trouble.
Well, that's it. And it's those distractions. It's like our time frame at which we decide to make a change is finite. Think about this. And I know, like, my experience is I've gone, all right, I'm going to get myself in really great shape. And you start a diet, and I'm sure many of our clients as well. And then 2 days later, you're tempted by a piece of cake, or you're tempted by a cheese board. All of a sudden, you lose that motivation. Now, what happens if you get that person at the right point in time where they're ready to lose the weight, but then a cheese board and a bottle of champagne was put in front of them, and then they don't have the motivation anymore? And that would happen all the time.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah. So, like, a lot of the time, if people cancel their call, you kind of have to challenge them. It's like, okay, like, do you still want to lose that 40 kilos, or are you happy staying the same? And unless if someone cancels their call, no shows their call, like, there's a reason, and you have to figure out a way of emotionally getting back in the game so you can help that person change.
Yeah, no, that 100% makes sense. With the process of getting people to show up as well, you've created a system effectively, or we've modeled a system that is well known to work in the industry, which is using a transfer of trust page. But we've very much put our own stamp on it now, and you've refined that in a lot of ways. Is that something you can sort of run through about how that works? Essentially, what we give people after they make a booking to increase the value before they even get on the call itself.
Yep. So a transfer of trust page, like, well, let's think about the customer journey, what they've seen so far. They've come in and they've seen your Facebook ad, they've gone to a landing page, they've gone to a 7-day challenge, and they've then booked a call. What happens is, if you just say, "Oh, congrats, you booked a call, see you then."
Yeah.
They're just like, "Oh, what do I do?" And then they start getting a bit freaked out. Like, what's going to happen? Am I going to be hard sold? Who's calling me?
I think it seems less professional as well. I mean, the more professional and systemized approach, the more legit it seems. So you don't get people feeling nervous. Maybe these guys are scam artists. You need a system that looks and feels really professional.
Yeah. So people want to know exactly what happens next, right? They want to know very clearly. So we tell them exactly what to expect. Hey, we're going to call you. It's better if you've got actually a video of the person who is actually going to call them. And we're going to have a chat about your goals. So have a think about that before you jump on the call, and also bring a pen and paper, because you're going to be writing some stuff down, and making them feel really comfortable and confident. I know we were in a mentor program recently, and they absolutely butchered that process. Absolutely butchered it. What they did was they said, okay, make sure you bring your credit card with you, because you're going to be making a decision about buying. And whatever you do, don't say you're going to think about it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Like,
go ahead. You're not going to say, "I'm going to think about it," because that's bullshit. And I was like, whoa, like that is ultimately going to have the exact opposite impact, because those people are going to be like, right, well, I'm 100% being hard sold. And so a lot of people just aren't going to show up. And that kind of defeats the purpose of their transfer of trust page.
Well, the thing is, it's supposed to be a relaxed call. Like, as well as anybody, like, no one wants to have an intense. 90% of people, its natural state is to conflict avoid.
Yep.
So why would you create confrontation on that page before you have the call? You're gonna blow your no-show rate up. And observationally, I've seen that time and time again, because particularly these people who've been in this business mentor program that I've seen. There's one that I'm going to call out right now. No, not mentioning any names, but it's just burning leads. Now, the next thing, I wanted to add something else in here about how important it is that the prospect knows exactly what happens. And I want to explain a story that happened to me. There's a business called Smart Club Direct, and they effectively make retainers for you, right? So that you can straighten your teeth. It's a really cool system, actually. They just send them off. You don't need to actually see an orthodontist themselves. They just take an impression of your teeth and send you back like 6 months worth of retainers to fix your teeth. It's great. Anyways, so impressed with what they do, because before you have your chat, about probably a few hours before you go into the consultation, they send you back a text message with a really, really detailed explanation as to how to get into the building and where to go. And I was like,
geez, because how many people, like they're so smart, because how many people would go, oh, I'm feeling a bit lost, confused. How do I get there? It's in the city. It's a little bit scary. And even for me, like I'm really confident with my way around, but I was just like, I've got to figure out where this place is. I'm going into a mall. I'm going to have to read this. It's going to take me extra time. And it's just a frustration. But having that confidence of knowing where it was, and they're so detailed. It was like, it was at Pitt Street in the city. And it was like, all right, enter Pitt Street Mall at the entrance closest to Zara. When you walk through the door, about 100 meters down, veer slightly to the left, then go up the first set of escalators you see and turn left and walk down the corridor, and you'll see it on your left opposite this shop. And it's like,
it was basically designed to lower all of your sort of hesitation or trepidation before the process. And I remember you saying another thing that you were super impressed about, which I thought was very smart and very sneaky, is that for their initial consultation, they charged a certain amount of money if you wanted to book. But if you booked within 72 hours, they gave you
I think it might have been 24 maybe.
Yeah. It was something like really hectic. And I was like, that is the smartest thing ever, because that's their way of basically, they don't not let you book in advance, but they just incentivize you not to, which you can't bill people necessarily. I don't think it'd be a good idea to bill people for a sales call in fitness, but the point wasn't lost. It's like, wow, that's a really smart thing. It's so important to get people to come in early. Otherwise they just don't come in at all. They change their mind.
Yeah. Like that sold me, because I think like, for me, my teeth were okay, but there wasn't enough pain there, right? So I kind of booked it and I was like, should I do this? And I was going to book like a week away. And would I have gone to that appointment if I'd booked a week away? I don't know. There were a lot of things that could have changed. Like in my mind, like there's not the same hook as losing weight and extending your life, feeling fit, etc. Feeling really great about yourself. The teeth just didn't have that hook for me. It was kind of like, for me, that was more of a luxury sort of thing. So I questioned whether I would have gone. But then it was like, hey, you get free teeth whitening if you book in the next 24, 72 hours or whatever it was. And I'm like, shit, I want to whiten my teeth.
Smart, yeah.
Would I get it for free? Shit. So we went from this situation where I probably wasn't going to go to ending up in their office the next day. And as soon as I'm a sucker for a sales pitch, as soon as I get pitched, I sell. And then not only that, then I referred you, right?
It's really funny how good that system was. And I think it comes back to, like, we've been discussing transfer of trust. Like, the key is in the name. It is the transfer of trust.
Well, that's it. It's like everything.
It's not the transfer of domination page. You're not there to like smack people over the face. And the whole point of it is, we set some ground rules. Hey, we don't want to take the call when you're in a car. And the reason we do that is we know if someone's in the car, they've got an exit out so they don't have to give us their car details. So we don't want to play a losing game. We're not going to take the call if you're in a car or in a busy, noisy place. This call's about you. We want to help you. So make sure you're in a quiet place with a pen and notepad so that you can take notes and get full benefit from the call. It's the way that we say it. It's about making it about them. And then we've got videos that basically give them information about kind of what we do. And then we have a webinar that we put together, which has also really had an impact in terms of show up rate and trust before the call. Effectively going through the what and the why, but not necessarily the how, because obviously we want to leave those, as I've heard you call them, open loops, so that they're basically salivating to get on the call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those videos are super powerful. I know that webinar that you created, that webinar, it's just the conversions on it are insane. I think like our top sales guy, not allowed to mention his name, but Mr. 95%, let's call him that. His conversion percentages are insane, and he sometimes just asks people, one of the first questions he asks is, have you watched the videos? And they'll say yes, and he's like, okay, awesome, Visa or MasterCard. Like, and then he closes people in 15 minutes. That's how he says he does it. So
it was really interesting when he said that we were like, how are you doing this? And he was like, well, if they've watched the video, that long video, they're going to convert. Simple as that. So it does show, if the best salesperson that I've ever met does that, then it's something that people really need to take very seriously about how important having a good transfer of trust page can be for their business.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, just thinking out loud, it'd be great to get Mr. 95% on a podcast episode, just to kind of pick his brain a little bit and get him to share his experiences with us too.
We'll see how we go with that one. That'll be something that we'll leave that teaser and see whether that becomes a reality.
Maybe we need like a voice distorter.
hello. Yeah. All right. So there's a couple more things. I know that we do email, we do SMS. What's the process? Like, do you want to run through those on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So email and SMS, will lump them together. You just need to remind people. People forget. Simple as that. Like, how good is it when you get that text message I just talked about? How good is it when you get text message reminders just reminding you? So we send one immediately, so they have the confirmation time, so they can look up to check what time it is. We then send them one 24 hours out with more value. Here's some testimonials. Here's some information about us. This is what to expect, making people feel comfortable. 2 hours out again. Hey, like, this is a really cool message, actually. It just says, hey, Belinda, can't wait to chat, Andrew. Or something that's super personal, and they think, oh, there's no way they automated that. That was just like so simple. It's so simple that it has to be a personal text. And we might even confirm the time in that message too, but it doesn't matter. But you get the point. And then all the emails are sent at about the same sort of time frame. And we're just constantly just redirecting them to something of value, education, inspiration, something that keeping that value there. Because as I said, like, the critical part here is that getting people in that 24-hour window, that 48-hour window, keeping them excited during that time, because you've just got to keep on hitting them over and over again. Also linked to those is restarting conversation. That's a really, really big thing. If we book someone in from Messenger, just restarting a conversation, sending them a funny meme. I know, like, one of the memes we send people is a photo of my reasonably new puppy, Millie. At least it's a photo when she was taken there. And what we say to people is, for every person that shows up for their call, we give Millie a treat. # keep Millie smiling, with a photo of her in, like, my partner Ellie's hands. And people just love it. They send back big smiles. They say, oh, that's awesome. I can't wait. So instantly you've broken the tension. You've broken the ice, that person knows that, hey, you're pretty cool. You're not going to be the asshole that hard sells them on the phone and makes them feel miserable and makes them cry before they buy, sort of mentality.
I think it's funny, because even though people don't think that you've got this really fat dog that's been fed so many times every time someone shows up to a call, the point is it's humanizing. It's a bit of a joke, and it makes people think, you know what, these guys don't take themselves too seriously. That's cute. They've had a bit of a laugh, and it just builds a bit of extra trust and connection. I think it's a really, really, really smart strategy that you've implemented in to sort of shore things up before.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, there's three major things here. It's like that we're looking at. It's like, hey, are you an authority? Are you a celebrity? And is there humanization? I mean, it's still your word. Yeah. And if you hit those three things, it's like there's every reason in the world for you, the prospect, to show up if they feel good about you, because they know, like, they trust you. Love at first sight. You're the reason that they want to be on the call. They want to meet you, right?
Exactly. No, I mean, I completely agree. Are there any other things that you feel we've left uncovered on the show today, or do you think that's pretty much everything?
Well, that was 5, 6, and 7, and we have number 8. Now, number 8's a pretty simple strategy. It's a bit more advanced, and probably the one that you probably include last, if anything, but it's kind of sneaky. What you can do is you can upload your people who booked the call, their data, into your Facebook ads manager and send ads to people. Like, you can send sponsored messages. So what a sponsored message would look like is, so it's not a sponsored message, a sponsored post would be like you sharing your story. So, you know that feeling when you're on Facebook and you feel like someone's following you around? Like, you post something. Yeah. It's all the time. It's like you looked up this coaching program, and then this could be us actually to you. But
looking up new bed. Next thing you know, like, you're getting bombed with, like, messages about beds and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, Facebook's really smart. So this is how we do this in Facebook. We grab their data, whether it's their email, pixel, whatever, and then we start hitting them with a video about our story. And we hit them with a video that inspires them to do something great, to take action, remind them of that. We hit them with something technical, the AP stuff that isn't as good as the inspiration or the or the story.
The other Andrew stuff.
Just the stuff to get authority. But again, like, you're humanizing. All those elements are like authority, celebrity, and humanization, all three.
Well, you always say top of mind awareness, and I think that's a big thing. It's like that sense that they are constantly, like, the more ever present you are in their reality, like, once they become aware of you the first time, they start to see you more often. I mean, I didn't used to give a crap about cars, and then I got a good car, and now I'm going along and I'm like, this, that car, and I'm obsessed with it. I never used to give a crap about that sort of stuff. And once you start thinking about a weight loss program and you get a little bit of information, you're going to be far more receptive and responsive to those kind of messages. So I think that's a really powerful thing when you use that system, obviously it's going to get a lot of people coming through on their second, third, or as you said earlier, maybe their 16th time.
Yeah. And yeah, that's that, like, and all of this stuff, it's like there's a lot of stuff there, and you definitely don't have to apply all of them at the same time. You can do them over a period of time. Now, we haven't done this for a while, but I did want to have something that we give away to our listeners as a thank you. And I thought what we could do today is down in the show notes. We're going to give you a template of some of the stuff that we use in our 8 steps. So you can actually grab that and start applying it in your business straight away.
So we're going to be, just to clarify, we are going to have what the 8 steps are, because I think that just, okay, great. That sounds awesome.
We'll have like what the 8 steps are to summarize them all. And then we'll also have, we're not going to give away all the templates. We can't do that, but we're going to give away some stuff so that you can kind of get a bit of an understanding, because I suppose we talked a lot about theory today, but it'd also be good for our listeners to be able to practically apply some of this stuff and get started on and seeing some results in terms of more people showing up for their calls and offering more value and getting more bookings.
Yeah, I love it. So trying to minimize the overwhelm by giving you a couple of things to start with, just so you get an idea of a bit of a taster of what you can do. And that should hopefully create a bit of inspiration and momentum for the listeners.
Awesome.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode.